What is going on, everyone? We are back with another music reaction. I'm Depraved.
No, we're not.
It's not a music reaction. It's a reaction.
I'm Hellcat.
And together we are...
HellaDepraved.
It's actually a top 10 reaction. Top
right.
9. This one's 9. 9 things that you didn't know about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Or 10 mind... Actually, it is 10.
It is 10. Mind-blowing
10 mind-blowing facts about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
And
you
might
were
even know
underselling it. You were underselling it.
I am terrible.
Yeah. Who hired you?
Oh.
Fired. Fired. Anyway, out of the list of things that he gave me to choose from in the horror universe, I chose this simply because all of them were interesting, and this one had more relevance in terms of recent releases. So we're going to see if any of these are actually mind-blowing or things we didn't know.
We did, by the way, fully enjoy and love Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which just came out on Netflix recently.
Yeah, we will say that we highly recommend that you watch it again if you were one of the people that were on the fence about it. It is subjective, so if you absolutely hated it, you hated it. But if you were on the fence, go back, pay close attention to the first half an hour, because honestly, a lot of the stuff that I had at the end of it that were my personal complaints about it were resolved rewatching that first half an hour, because there was a lot of subtle double entendres, things that you thought were being said to one person that were really not, that kind of thing, that really explained a lot. The backstory, psychologically, the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
Right.
So.
With that being said, we're going to react to this if you guys have already seen it. If not, click the link in the description below, hop on over, do all the things, come on back, with our commentary, reaction, breakdown, comment channel, and what that means is we will pause rating and all of the above. So.
Or since this is a top 10, stick with us and stay for our opinions.
Right.
It's up to you.
It is time to slash it up and check it out. This is 10 mind-blowing facts about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from WhatCulture Horror.
It's a good site.
It is.
Yes,
I love
unlike
WhatCulture.
the other site. It gets a fail.
What was the other one we usually look at?
Mojo.
Oh yeah, Watch Mojo.
Yeah. They don't have the mojo. They lost the mojo.
No. They're very inconsistent.
Call Mike Myers.
Right. Alright, let's get it.
Some 40 years ago, a group of relative unknowns headed by then newbie director Tobe Hooper convened in the city of Austin and battled with the extreme Texan summer heat, a shoestring budget, and some rather unsavory working conditions to make one of the most important...
She's already made a mistake. It was 50 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when was this put out? Recently?
This was 4 days ago.
Yeah.
The movie
It's
took
the
place
50.
in 74. It is now 2022. So technically it's like 48 years or some shit like that.
Right.
But it's still more closer to 50 than it is 40.
Right.
horror films of all time, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. As controversial as it was praised, the movie has helped shape the horror genre, and although it's been succeeded by some rather subpar sequels, its legacy, from its gritty pared-down approach to its iconic villain Leatherface, lives on today. With that in mind, I'm Ash from WhatCulture, and these are 10 mind-blowing facts about the Texas Chainsaw.
Which, by the way, am a fan of Ash. She's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. And she's normally spot on, you know.
Yes.
Massacre. 10. It's not actually as gory as you think. For a movie that features the words chainsaw and massacre prominently in its title, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre has a surprisingly low kill count of just 5, or 6 if you count that poor armadillo roadkill during the opening scenes. Of those victims, only one met their maker at the hands of a chainsaw, and it happens in the dark, so what gore there may be isn't all that visible anyway, barring the odd splatter of blood. The remaining few are dispatched by a variety of other means: sledgehammer to the head, being hung by a meat hook and frozen in the freezer, and getting run over by a truck. And their death scenes are relatively tame. The reason for the lack of gore? As hard as it is to believe, Hooper wanted his film to be awarded a PG rating so it could be seen by as wide an audience as possible, and accordingly kept the on-screen bloodshed to a minimum. 9. It was...
Now, here's the thing. Okay. While I understand and respect Tobe Hooper's decision, and it is still a fantastic movie, it is still my second favorite in the series, I would have preferred the gore to be there.
I mean, like, okay, yeah, it's supposed to be. I was waiting for her to point out, but until this very last movie, there has not been a massacre in it either.
Right.
So, I mean, like, I thought that's what she was getting at when she was saying the kill count is surprisingly low, and I thought that's what it was kind of building up to. I agree with you to a certain point. I don't think that it needed to be incredibly graphic, but I do think that they should have shown a bit more, because they did keep things in the dark. And
I am of that weird breed in horror. I hate not having a rated R in horror.
right. But I don't necessarily feel like the R needs to be awarded simply for gore.
There are... Yeah, but the problem is when it's not R... And don't get me wrong, there are some movies that are PG-13 that pull it off well. Things like, if I remember correctly, The Ring is PG-13. But in terms
you
of...
get a lot more of, like, the psychological horrors that are lower ratings because there's not the gore.
Right. But in slashers specifically, I hate off-screen kills.
Right.
And I hate there not being hardly any blood usually.
Okay. I mean, like, I agree with you entirely, and I think what I meant to say was, like, I want R rating, but I want it there for more than just additional gore.
Right.
Like, I don't want it censored.
Right.
I guess, you know. Because there's a lot of stuff they do off camera. So, I guess since she was talking about the original, yeah, my problems would be there was no massacre and there was only one kill with the chainsaw. So, cool name.
Right.
But kind of a letdown. I love the movie, don't get me wrong, but kind of a letdown in terms of, you're like, yeah. No. Yeah.
But yeah, this is going to be... This is actually going to be all about the first movie, so...
Oh, okay. Okay.
It was Christmas shopping, strangely enough, that inspired Tobe Hooper to make the movie.
I can understand
Funnily
that.
enough,
I can
the light bulb
understand
moment
that.
for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre came to Hooper whilst
When he was standing in line going, I want to kill every one of these motherfuckers.
With a chainsaw.
With a chainsaw.
Yeah, because, you know, he
chainsaw.
had it for cutting down his own tree, and he was just like, no holiday cheer here.
I want to cut down the masses.
Correct. I totally understandable to me.
Totally understand.
Which is why I do not go shopping, just generally speaking.
Right.
he was out shopping during the Christmas rush in late 1972 at a department store where he happened upon a rack of chainsaws while strolling around the hardware section. Growing increasingly frustrated by the overzealous Christmas shoppers around him, Hooper said to himself, I know a way I could get through this crowd really quickly.
I like
That is,
him.
presumably
I like
by
him.
mowing the mindless consumer horde down with a chainsaw or two. Can we really blame him?
See?
8. Edwin
Thank
Neal
you.
compared
Thank
the
you.
harrowing shoot to his time in Vietnam. Veteran Edwin Neal, who played the hitchhiker and fought during the war in the late 1960s, said the filming of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was worse than his stint in Vietnam. And that's really saying something. Shot over the course of 4 weeks during a hotter-than-hell Texan heatwave, the cast were forced to wear the same blood-splattered costumes throughout production, which,
that
as
would
you can
smell.
imagine, much like a Games Workshop store, didn't smell too nice by the time filming finally wrapped. In fact, Gunnar Hansen's Leatherface costume started to reek so much that the cast and crew refused to sit next to him at lunch. Bless him. 7. It was a particularly...
Bless him. Well, bless his heart.
I can relate for reasons.
Yeah, I know. Flashbacks. I'm so sorry, honey. That's funny because that's one of those guys that you're like, dude, I seriously thought he was like
A little
18 years. He didn't strike me as somebody that was already a veteran.
Right.
Is all I'm saying. Like, and that sucks.
A lot of people, I was reading an article today, actually, ironically enough, where most of the cast hated making this movie.
4 weeks, because, I mean, So when you hear that, you're like, oh, it wasn't that long. But that's a month of wearing the same clothing during a heat
100 plus
wave.
degree fucking heat.
Yeah. In Texas, so there's humidity.
It sucked.
And you're supposed to be doing... I mean, this is physically exerting work, too, because they're running, they're screaming, they're supposed to portray terror half the time. I mean...
Unless you're one of the cast members that are super thrilled to be getting killed off early.
Right? Like, I was there for 2 days. I still have flashbacks. It was horrible. The stench. Yeah.
Harrowing experience for star Marilyn Burns. Poor Marilyn Burns, who played final girl Sally, didn't exactly have the easiest time whilst filming. Beyond the grueling heat and having to wear a costume so caked in blood that it was practically rigid by the time the shoot wrapped, Burns was injured several times on set. After her on-screen brother Franklin is killed and Sally escapes through some rather gnarly undergrowth while being chased by a chainsaw-wielding Leatherface, Burns was cut by branches several times, but that was nothing compared to what she endured during the movie's infamous dinner scene. While Sally's finger is being cut so Grandpa Sawyer can feed off her blood, a prop kept malfunctioning, so a frustrated Gunnar Hansen cut Burns' finger for real. That terror on Burns' face during the dinner scene is absolutely genuine. 6. The infamous dinner scene took a...
Oh, hell no!
Yeah, that's a firm no from me.
That's why she didn't come back for this
I know, I was just thinking that to myself. Like, if
She's
this
like,
was such a
do you want me to
horror
return back
for that?
for that? I
How
don't care
about
how
no?
much safer things are now.
How about no?
No.
I mean, like, how much safer? We've seen recent mishaps in the prop department.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But those
Yeah.
mishaps actually rarely happen in horror movies.
Right.
Almost every one of those mishaps you hear happen are in westerns, actually.
I mean, like, technically speaking, The Crow counts as a horror movie, though.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Now, granted, that is back a ways. But on the flip side, I'd be like, yeah, I wasn't paid enough for this shit. And I can go to all of the horror conventions I want to and still be the last girl.
Right.
So, no. I'll pass. That's,
day to film. Speaking of that dinner scene, after Grandpa Sawyer actor John Duggan realised how laborious the process of getting his old man makeup applied was, he refused to do it again and insisted the scene was shot in one go, which meant the minutes-long scene actually took over 24 hours to film completely. Thanks to the heat wave and a lack of air conditioning, the smell of rotting food and body odour in the Sawyer family dining room apparently got so intense and stomach-churning that cast and crew would take turns running to the window to vomit their guts up and catch a few gulps of fresh air.
That's
5.
disgusting.
It's connected to the mob. After the
That's
Texas
just
Chainsaw
flat out
Massacre was
disgusting.
complete, Hooper struggled to find a distributor for his then shockingly violent movie before salvation came in the form of Bryanston Pictures, who secured distribution rights. Unfortunately for Hooper and everybody else involved in the film, Bryanston Pictures was actually a front for the mafia run by members of the Colombo crime family, who shafted Hooper and company by claiming the film only made $1 million at the box office, when in reality its profits were upwards of the $12 million mark. It wasn't until Bryanston Pictures went bankrupt and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was reacquired by New Line Cinema in 1983 that the cast and crew saw any real profit from the movie. 4.
I'd have been pissed!
I guess they couldn't blow it all in one place then. But on the flip side, that's some kind of bullshit.
And going back to the other one, too.
Oh no.
Working conditions
No.
where you're smelling rotting food
Okay,
and
here's
stank.
to the point that you have to take turns to go vomit. Here's the thing. A lot of actors that have to put on prosthetics spend upwards of like 7 hours getting that shit put on.
Right.
That's when you say, look, you prima donna, you. No. This will be 3 days. With breaks. I mean, that's just... And you go out and you get the biggest fans that you can afford, just rent them, because, you know, if you're on a really string budget, you can't buy them or whatever.
Right.
And when you're not filming, you fucking fumigate that place. Just, like, blow the fans across, like, open windows on both sides of the room. I don't care. Something's gotta happen, you know? No. Mm-mm. 24 hours.
It was a marijuana-fueled massacre. Considering it was filmed during the 1970s, it's probably not too surprising that there was a little pot on the set of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What is surprising is that they waited until the last day of filming to chow down on a few space cakes, and that it was child of God Gunnar Hansen's first time indulging in the devil's lettuce. It turned out that wasn't Hansen's brightest idea when he found himself shooting a scene in which he had to chainsaw through a door whilst under the influence and feeling rather dizzy. Luckily, no one got hurt. Incidentally, the narrator claims he didn't see a paycheck for his troubles, but was paid the princely sum of one marijuana cigarette. Can't complain too much, eh? 3. The Leatherface costume was a liability. Scary as the many faces of Leatherface are, one rather unfortunate consequence of having to wear masks throughout filming was that Gunnar Hansen's visibility was somewhat limited. Add to the fact that the already very tall Hansen was wearing 3-inch heels to make him look even more intimidating, and you have a recipe for disaster. In fact, during the shooting of one scene when Leatherface is running through a doorway, Hansen actually got knocked out after hitting his head on the door frame. Not exactly the most ideal working conditions for an actor that spent the majority of his time wielding a heavy chainsaw, really. 2. Realism.
Right. That would suck. Don't do drugs, kids.
So he was high and he couldn't see.
Right. Or function in heels.
Now,
Like 100%. Like, I can't either, to be fair, but yeah.
Different times, yeah. But even in today's times where pot is way more widely accepted,
Right.
I still don't enjoy it. So I wouldn't have
I
been
thought they
somebody
were going to
smoking.
say that they were high the whole time, and I was like, well, I mean, that would have helped.
Right.
At least. I'm surprised that they did wait until the last day with those kind of working conditions. Yeah, I'm not... I don't enjoy it at all. I'm actually allergic to it, so I actually quite despise it. However, still, that's gotta suck too, because it's hot as hell. He's got something covering his face. He's got heels on. I used to be able to function in them, and I was still prone
To accidents.
to accidents. I mean, not as common as some people, certainly not like I am today. But if you put a mask over your face, like, I don't know, that kind of walking into the top of the door frame of a door is not something I've ever experienced, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Was key when it came to the props. Alongside the titular massacring chainsaw, there were plenty of props taken from very real sources. That skeleton we see suspended in the corner of the room during the film's dinner scene, that was a real skeleton that once resided inside a real living human being. Apparently back then it was far more economical to purchase a human skeleton than it was an anatomically correct fake one. Art director Robert A. Burns also scoured the surrounding countryside sourcing real animal corpses, including 8 cows, 3 goats, a cat, 2 dogs, 2 deer, 1 chicken, and that unfortunate armadillo, to give the set an authentic ambience. You can imagine how those genuine animal carcasses fared in the Texas heat. 1.
Right.
That actually doesn't bother me, though.
No, the stench would. The stench. Yeah.
would.
Rotting flesh would. Yeah.
Right. But I mean, like the bones.
Yeah, well, and I knew there's several, like Poltergeist is another horror movie that used real skeletons. I mean, like, there's a whole bunch of lore behind that, guys, of people, like, they were actually raiding graveyard. That's not true. They're skeletons that were actually, like, sold to, put on the market in terms of normally going to medical schools and stuff like that. But, that's how it used to be done.
All right, what's fact number 1?
Even the soundtrack was authentic. Barring a few country songs they'd secured permission to use, Hooper and sound technician Wayne Bell constructed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre soundtrack from a range of DIY sound effects meant to recreate the noises a soon-to-be slaughtered animal would hear in a slaughterhouse. The techniques Hooper and Bell reportedly used to create the movie soundtrack included scraping a pitchfork along a table, banging metal objects off things, and practically torturing a dulcimer. And, of course, there's that unmistakable roar of a chainsaw starting up. So if you've ever wondered what it was like to work in an abattoir, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre soundtrack is a good place to start.
Okay.
Interesting.
What?
YouTube. the unexpected frontier. These are the videos of WhatCulture.com. Its continuing mission to list strange new facts, seek out news and offbeat discoveries, to boldly go where no WhatCulture channel has gone before.
Are they going to do a What Culture Star Trek channel?
I feel like we just got sucked into something.
How would you guys like to start a Star Trek channel?
Hell yeah!
No, sorry, how's he got a uniform? I've been asking for one for months now, and I'm
Providing money, I'll be sipping jippers on the beach somewhere.
Hell yeah!
Is he even cold?
Hell yeah!
If I had any money, I'd be
Literally
sipping jippers on the beach
months I've been
somewhere.
asking for one.
Hell yeah!
If I had any money, I'd be sipping jippers on the beach somewhere.
Hell yeah!
If I had any money, I'd be sipping jippers on the beach somewhere.
Hell yeah!
If I had any money, I'd be sipping jippers on the beach somewhere.
Hell yeah!
If I had any money, I'd be sipping...
Hi, I'm Marcus Bronzy, new presenter for Trek Culture, What Culture's new home for
Interesting.
all things Star Trek related. Now, we've already got a bunch of great content like Adam Cleary's ups and downs for every new episode of Picard, and we'll of course have all of the lists and rankings that you know and love us for. Fancy yourself a Trekkie and want to contribute? Well, What Culture is hiring video editors and writers, so if you want to get involved, fire over a CV and cover letter to trekculture@whatculture.
Why weren't y'all hiring when y'all started your horror channel?
Yeah, I know. I feel
I'd have
kind
written
of
for
like,
you guys.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think they should have gone sci-fi
Just
in
versus
general, because I feel
narrowing it.
like they're still a
That's
very...
it. They narrowed it. I mean, Trek culture is huge, so
It
I
is.
get it, but I understand what you're saying.
But I don't know. You could have combined it with Star Wars,
Oh,
Firefly.
the Star Trekkers versus the Star Wars people. That would start a war.
X-Files.
Right. Well, I agree with you, but you know.
And I guess I say that because, like, I'm not so much a Star Trek fan as I am a sci-fi fan in general.
Right.
So I know about evenly across sci-fi as opposed to, like, being a dedicated fan to any given...
right.
Except for maybe X-Files. But that leans on...
That's a little bit more paranormal sci-fi,
Right.
which makes it, why I loved X-Files, you know.
But, I mean, congrats. I'm glad you guys are doing more stuff. And
Yeah, I'm glad they're expanding, for sure.
we may eventually check out some stuff if they've got stuff later on that I happen to see pop up that...
I know nothing about it. I mean, like, I've seen Star Trek, for sure. Don't get me wrong, guys. I have seen it.
Like, if they were to go through and do, like...
I'm just not a Trekkie.
a top 10 Star Trek captains video, I could get down on that.
I have no input.
That's fine.
Yeah. I'm just saying. Just saying. Who hired me, right? Yeah, that was you.
You did.
Too. No, that was you.
No, I gave you the option.
Yes, but you gave me the option, which most employers do. Would you like to come work for us?
It's only work if you're getting paid for it. We don't make money off this.
Okay, that's also true. That's
We,
also
we
true,
make...
yeah.
Guys, for our videos,
Mhm.
we make maybe $5 a month.
All of them. Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah,
$5 a month.
maybe. Yeah, if we're lucky.
The only money we make is off of our live streams.
Yeah. Anyway, I enjoyed those. I wouldn't say that they were mind-blowing. I would say some of them are, like, it's interesting that the movie ever made it out in general, like, to the public, was ever out there, between, like, people not walking off the set or falling extremely ill from tetanus or, you know, some sort of toxic reaction, to actually having it get out on for people to be seen when it was mob controlled for a while.
I think the most mind-blowing fact out of this entire list for me is knowing that they sold the distribution rights to basically a mob.
Right.
Without really knowing that that's what they were doing.
Huh.
Because for him to not have the rights to his own movie
For a long time.
for almost 20 years?
I don't know when
Somewhere
New Line
between
took
15
it,
to
yeah.
20 years? Because again, the movie came out in 74,
Right.
and I think the New Line didn't get the rights from it until, did they say it was 92? Or was it 80 something? I don't remember.
Yeah.
10 to 20 years.
That's pretty shocking, yeah.
That sucks, too. Like, because that's when the movie is making its most money.
Right.
I mean, it's still getting its trickle-down funds even to this day.
But, yeah, the surge is over.
But that surge is over.
Well, and it's interesting to think about because the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, based on when it was made, is one of the original slashers. And a lot of people saw it and got their concepts for the slashers we've seen, you know, more in the 80s, happen in the 80s.
Right.
And so for it to be, you know, a 4-week production, which I didn't realize it was such a short stint, and then on top of it, to not be paid for over a decade, that's something else. It's weird that it was 4 weeks for the whole movie, and yet 24 hours for a 5-minute dinner scene. I mean, it's more than 5 minutes. Yeah, but for 10, 15 minutes of the movie, you know, at least.
And the malfunctioning of the knife.
Yeah, I'd be like, okay, while I don't have an aversion to necessarily pain or blood, I do have an aversion to, like, everything in this room, the potential tetanus, like, still being in the same clothing.
Cutting my finger, sticking it in a stranger's mouth.
Correct. Like, there are so many risks right now. But it sounds like she didn't have a choice. It sounds like he just did it.
If the prop wasn't working right, I would almost bet she begrudgingly did it.
Well, I mean, but that's, you know, she said the terror on her face was real, like...
I mean, it would still be real. Like, even if she's like, go ahead and just fucking cut me, it would still suck.
Right. Yeah. Anyway.
Because I'm betting the prop wasn't working right, and she was probably just to the point where, like, it fucking stinks, just do it.
Right. No, I mean, like, that's the attitude I would have in terms of, like, I don't have a problem with pain or blood, just get it over with. But the problem for me would be, like, making sure, have I had my tetanus shot recently?
Right.
Because that's a lot of, and I'm not a germaphobe, y'all, but rotting corpses and stuff that are real versus props, that's leaving yourself open to a lot of, and yeah, it's going in some stranger's mouth.
A lot of bullshit.
Kind of literally. Yeah. Yeah.
Alright, guys. If you guys liked the video, slash that like button, subscribe button, ring the bell for what was your most shocking? I said what mine was.
I don't know that any of them were, like, shocking to me. I mean, I obviously didn't know a number of them. The mob one is definitely, like, came out of left field, kind of. The rest of it, I suppose, all kind of ties in with it being in Texas during a heat wave, so it's not 100% shocker.
Surprising.
Yeah. The mob was just kind of like, and here's a curveball.
Right.
Yeah. And now for something completely different. Yeah.
If you liked the video, slash that like button, subscribe, or ring the bell for notifications. Comment down below. What did you think of WhatCulture Horror's 10 things that were mind-blowing facts from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Something along those lines, yeah.
Somewhere. Also, comment down below if there's anything else you guys want to see reacted to. Check the description below for all the things.
Push our buttons. Come join us on our other social media platforms, mostly Twitter if you want a quicker response.
We love y'all. Thank y'all for watching. Cannot wait to see you, depraved people, later. Bye.